Every single day, millions of people spend one-dime coins without ever giving them a second thought. But hidden among these ordinary-looking Roosevelt dimes are a few pieces that carry unbelievable secrets. Coins so common, so normal, so extremely ordinary that you would never imagine they could be worth far more than just 10 cents. These are the dimes you've probably held in your hand at a grocery store, found in old piggy banks, or tossed into a drawer without thinking. But what if I told you that inside these everyday coins lie rare minting errors, unexpected variations, and hidden details that even experienced collectors often miss? Before you spend another dime, pause for a moment. Because the three most ordinary dimes you're about to discover could quietly transform a simple piece of pocket change into a shocking treasure. The difference between a regular 10-cent coin and a valuable one can be so small that it slips past almost everyone. Watch carefully, because the next ordinary dime you find might be the one that changes everything. The Roosevelt dime has been a staple of American coinage since it was first introduced in 1946, following the death of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The 1989 Roosevelt dime continued the legacy of this iconic coin, which was designed by John R. Sinek, the 10th chief engraver of the United States. Mint Sinek had the challenge of honoring Roosevelt while creating a design that was simple, elegant, and timeless. The obverse of the dime features a profile portrait of Roosevelt. Facing left, the design captures the president's determined expression, his prominent forehead, and his distinctive glasses. The simplicity of the portrait allows for immediate recognition while conveying dignity and respect. Roosevelt was chosen as the subject of the dime because of his leadership during the Great Depression and World War II, as well as his role in founding the March of Dimes, a national campaign to combat polio. The reverse design of the Roosevelt dime features a torch flanked by an olive branch on the left and an oak branch on the right. The torch represents liberty, while the olive branch symbolizes peace, and the oak branch stands for strength and independence. This combination of symbols was meant to reflect the values Roosevelt championed throughout his life. The 1989 Roosevelt dime was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco with the PD and S mint marks signifying the respective mints. The coin is composed of a clad combination of copper and nickel, specifically a core of pure copper, sandwiched between outer layers of a copper-nickel alloy. The weight, diameter, and thickness of the dime remained consistent with previous years at 2.25 grams in weight, 17.9 millimeters in diameter, and 1.35 millimeters in thickness. The edge of the dime is reeded, a design feature that dates back to the early 19th century, intended to prevent clipping or shaving of precious metals. The 1989 Roosevelt dime circulated widely throughout the United States, appearing in pockets, wallets, and cash registers across the nation. Despite being a common circulation coin, collectors still paid attention to certain characteristics, such as strike quality, luster, and condition. Uncirculated or proof versions of the 1989 dime are particularly sought after for their sharp detail and bright finish. The United States Mint also produced special proof sets in 1989, which included the Roosevelt dime struck with a mirror-like finish intended for collectors. These proof coins were carefully inspected and packaged to ensure a flawless appearance, making them distinct from the coins that entered general circulation. Collectors often look for coins that exhibit full detail on the torch and branches, as well as a crisp, clear portrait on the obverse. Such coins can hold additional value beyond face value, depending on their grade and preservation. Some 1989 Roosevelt dimes also show minor errors or variations such as double dies or slight off-center strikes. These anomalies are typically rare and can be of particular interest to numismatists. The Roosevelt dime has had a remarkable staying power in American currency. It has remained in circulation for decades, and its design has changed only subtly over the years. The 1989 issue is part of this ongoing story, reflecting both the continuity and the history of the United States Mint. The dime has not only served as a medium of exchange, but also as a small piece of national heritage in the hands of millions of Americans. The symbolism embedded in the coin from the torch to the branches continues to remind each generation of the ideals of liberty, peace, and strength that Roosevelt championed. His image on the dime also serves as a tribute to the March of Dimes and the enduring efforts to eradicate polio. The Roosevelt Dime, including the 1989 issue, has influenced other coin designs and remains a reference point for coin collectors, historians, and casual observers alike. Over time, collectors have studied the coin for changes in design, details, subtle variations in minting, and the quality of strikes. The 1989 Roosevelt Dime represents a snapshot in the long history of American coinage, showing both consistency in design and the ongoing craftsmanship of the mint. The coin also reflects the economic context of its time. The late 1980s saw changes in coin production technology and increases in demand for coinage for everyday transactions as well as for collectors. Special sets and uncirculated rolls from 1989 remain a way for enthusiasts to experience the history and artistry of the mint. Today, the 1989 Roosevelt Dime continues to circulate and to be collected around the world. Its design is instantly recognizable and continues to honor the legacy of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The story of the coin is intertwined with American history and culture, showing how even a small piece of currency can carry meaning across generations. Its presence in wallets, cash registers, and collections keeps the memory of Roosevelt and the ideals he represented alive. For numismatists, the 1989 dime offers opportunities to study mint marks, variations, errors, and the overall quality of production. Each coin tells a story about the mint, the era it was produced in, and the people who handled it. From its initial release to its ongoing use, the 1989 Roosevelt Dime is a testament to enduring design and historical significance. The coin continues to be a bridge between the past and the present, connecting collectors to decades of American history and to a president whose impact was felt both nationally and internationally. As a circulating coin, it continues to serve its purpose, facilitating everyday commerce while also representing the artistry and symbolism embedded in American coinage. From a collector's perspective, its value extends beyond the monetary. The coin embodies the history of the mint, the development of coinage technology, and the ongoing appreciation of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's contributions. The 1989 Roosevelt Dime is more than currency. It is a piece of history in your hands. It carries stories of the past and continues to circulate as part of American life, preserving the legacy of one of the nation's most influential presidents. The Roosevelt Dime, including the 1989 issue, has influenced coin collectors, generations of numismatists, and serves as an enduring symbol of American heritage. Its design remains relevant today and continues to reflect the principles of liberty, peace, and strength that Roosevelt championed. The coin's history from its inception to 1989 and beyond demonstrates the intersection of artistry, history, and everyday utility, making it a fascinating subject for study, collection, and appreciation. In conclusion, the 1989 Roosevelt Dime is a small coin with a big story. Its design honors a great president, reflects the values of a nation, and provides a tangible connection to history. Whether used in commerce, collected for preservation, or admired for its artistry, the coin remains an iconic piece of American numismatic history. The story of the 1982 Roosevelt Dime begins with the broader history of the Roosevelt Dime series, which was first introduced in 1946 as a tribute to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who had passed away in 1945. Roosevelt had led the nation through both the Great Depression and World War II, and he was also closely associated with the March of Dimes, a nationwide campaign dedicated to fighting polio, a disease Roosevelt himself battled for much of his life. The design, by John R. Sinek, featured the left-facing portrait of Roosevelt on the obverse and a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength on the reverse. By 1982, the Roosevelt dime had already been in circulation for more than 3 decades, and the United States Mint had transitioned from silver coinage to clad coinage beginning in 1965 due to rising silver prices. This meant the 1982 dime was made of a copper-nickel blend rather than 90% silver and 10% copper. The coin contained an outer layer of 75% copper and 25% nickel bonded to a pure copper core, one of the most durable combinations for modern U.S. circulating coinage. The year 1982 was a transitional and economically challenging period in American history. The United States was emerging from a period of high inflation that had dominated the late 1970s and entering a recession early in the decade. As a result, the mint had to balance coin production with economic realities, which sometimes led to lower mintages or adjustments in production processes. Although the 1982 dime is not considered rare in the traditional sense, its story remains tied to the broader economic environment and minting changes of the early 1980s. In 1982, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint both produced Roosevelt dimes. However, one of the most notable aspects of this period is that the Philadelphia Mint had generally used a P mint mark since 1980, except on cents. In 1982, the Roosevelt dime from Philadelphia proudly carried the P mint mark, which for collectors was an important detail since no Philadelphia mint mark had appeared on circulating U.S. coins before 1980. The Denver Mint struck its dimes with the familiar D mint mark. Both mints produced large quantities, ensuring enough coins for commerce across the country. The design elements of the 1982 dime remained consistent with previous years. The obverse retained the detailed portrait of Franklin Roosevelt with the inscriptions, "Liberty in God." We trust the date and the mint mark, placed just above the date. The reverse featured the classic torch, olive branch, and oak branch, symbolizing victory, unity, and freedom, and included the inscriptions, "United States of America, E pluribus unum, and one dime." The 1982 dime continued the tradition of clear symbolism, emphasizing national unity and the resilience of the American spirit. During 1982, the Mint worked on improving the quality of strikes across all denominations, including the dime collectors. Sometimes note that coins from the early 1980s can show softer details due to worn dies or high-speed production, but well-struck examples exist and demonstrate the excellent craftsmanship the Mint aimed to maintain. Although the 1982 dime does not include major design changes, it still represents a period of refinement in clad coin production technology. In the realm of collecting, the 1982 Roosevelt dime holds a unique place. While it is not known for major errors like the famous 1982 no-P dime, which actually belongs to a different year but comes from the same transitional era, collectors still pay attention to potential varieties and strike differences from the early 1980s. The presence of the P mint mark on Philadelphia strikes is a reminder of the historically important moment when Philadelphia coins first began consistently carrying mint marks, which helps make 1982 an interesting study year in modern numismatics. Another notable aspect is that 1982 dimes were produced during a time when the mint was focusing on cost efficiency, which sometimes influenced coin production speeds and die longevity. This means some coins from 1982 may show minor die cracks, machine doubling, or slight plancher imperfections that collectors enjoy identifying, although none of these varieties reach the level of high-value rarities. They do, however, offer opportunities for hobbyists to explore the details of coin minting and the small imperfections that result from mass production. The 1982 Roosevelt dime also reflects the changes in American currency use during this period. Debit cards and electronic payment systems were still in their infancy, meaning small denomination coins, including dimes, were widely needed for everyday transactions. Vending machines, public transportation, and payphones, which were extremely common at the time. This high everyday usage ensured that millions of 1982 dimes circulated heavily, with many becoming worn over time, making high-grade survivors more appealing to collectors. For investors in modern coinage, the 1982 dime is a representative of the beginning of a shift toward long-term clad coin preservation. Coins from the 1980s are reaching ages at which untouched high-grade examples become more interesting to grading services and collectors, especially those who specialize in modern coin series. Collectors often look for mint state examples which maintain their original luster and detail, and some very high-grade 1982 dimes can achieve strong interest in registry set competitions. The story of the 1982 Roosevelt Dime also highlights the continued legacy of President Franklin Roosevelt in American culture. Even decades after his presidency, and passing the dime continues to honor his leadership, social initiatives, and influence on American history. The March of Dimes connection also remained culturally relevant. Throughout the 1980s, as medical advances continued to reduce the effects of polio and other childhood diseases, demonstrating how the coin represents not only monetary value, but also a tribute to humanitarian progress. Within numismatic circles, the 1982 dime is often studied as part of the broader evolution of the Roosevelt Dime series. Collectors examine differences in strike quality, mintmark placement, die characteristics, and mintage figures, comparing them to earlier and later years. Understanding the 1982 dime helps collectors grasp the mint's transition from earlier minting methods into more modern approaches used in the late 20th century. When examining mintage, the 1982 dime was produced in sufficiently large numbers, with the Philadelphia Mint striking hundreds of millions, and the Denver Mint also striking vast quantities, ensuring ample supply. Despite high mintages, the survival of very high-grade pieces remains lower, due to heavy circulation and the fact that few people saved rolls of dimes during the 1980s because they were not considered collectible at the time. This makes high-grade examples more interesting for today's collectors. The year 1982 also marked a continued shift in public interest from silver coinage to modern clad coins. Collectors who once focused solely on older silver coins began to recognize the importance of assembling complete modern sets, creating a new appreciation for coins like the 1982 dime. As more collectors began exploring modern U.S. coinage, the Roosevelt series gained renewed attention, and this interest continues today, especially among those building complete sets from 1946 to the present. Another aspect worth noting is the impact of inflation on coin purchasing power during the early 1980s. The dime, which once could buy a small snack or a newspaper, now had comparatively less buying power and yet remained an essential coin in circulation. This change in economic conditions influenced how people viewed coins like the 1982 dime, shifting them from daily essentials to more symbolic pieces in the eyes of collectors as decades passed. By looking at the 1982 dime with historical context, we see a coin that represents American resilience, innovation, and transition. It stands at a moment when the mint was refining its clad coinage technology, when mint marks had recently become a standard part of Philadelphia coinage, and when the U.S. economy was experiencing significant changes. The coin itself carries the legacy of Franklin Roosevelt, a president who reshaped the nation during some of its most challenging periods. The 1982 Roosevelt Dime remains an accessible yet historically rich coin that offers collectors and historians insights into U.S. minting history, economic change, and technological development in coin production. Whether found in circulation, tucked away in a jar, or preserved in a collection, the 1982 dime reflects its era and continues to contribute to the ongoing story of the Roosevelt Dime series. The story of the Roosevelt Dime in 1978 begins long before that year even arrived, because the coin's journey is deeply tied to American history, monetary change, and the legacy of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. To understand the place of the 1978 dime, we first look back to 1946, when the Roosevelt Dime series was introduced as a tribute to the president who led the nation through the Great Depression and World War II, and who was closely connected to the March of Dimes campaign, which aimed to fight polio. By 1978, the design created decades earlier by John R. Sinek had already become a familiar piece of American pocket change, showing Roosevelt's profile on the obverse with the word liberty, the motto, "In God we trust," the mint mark, and the date, while the reverse displayed the torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. Even though the basic design remained unchanged by 1978, the history behind the coin and the conditions at the United States Mint had evolved in many important ways. As the nation moved through the 1970s, the mint was experiencing a period of modernization. After the Coinage Act of 1965 removed silver from circulating dimes, the composition of the Roosevelt dime had settled into the clad construction made of copper and nickel. By 1978, this clad design was well established, and Americans were fully accustomed to the lighter weight and different feel compared to the earlier silver dimes. The 1970s were also a time of rapid economic changes marked by inflation and fluctuating metal prices, which made base metal coinage more important than ever. The mint had to produce billions of coins to meet the demands of a growing economy, and the Roosevelt dime remained one of the most widely used denominations in daily transactions. The facilities at Philadelphia and Denver handled the bulk of dime production in 1978, and collectors today often search for differences in strike quality between coins from the two mints. The year 1978 itself saw strong mintage numbers reflecting America's busy economy. Philadelphia produced a substantial number of dimes without a mint mark, while Denver produced its own large run marked with the letter D. Although there were no major design changes for the 1978 dime, the quality of the strike surfaces and luster varied depending on the die condition and production speed. Collectors often look for well-struck examples, especially those showing full details in Roosevelt's hair and the torch flame lines. These coins in high grades can be surprisingly desirable because coins meant for circulation were not handled with collector care. Many 1978 dimes became worn through everyday use, so finding near-perfect examples requires careful searching. During this period, the United States Mint was also refining its proof coin production for collectors. Proof sets were made at the San Francisco Mint, and these 1978 proof dimes featured mirror-like fields and frosted devices, giving them a dramatic appearance. For collectors, these proof coins represent the highest quality version of the 1978 dime. While not rare, they remain an important part of the year's numismatic story because they show the artistry of the original Sinek design in its sharpest form. Beyond the technical and production aspects, the Roosevelt dime in 1978 also fits into the cultural and economic atmosphere of America at the time. The country was emerging from a decade filled with political shifts, economic troubles, and rapid social change. Everyday objects like coins often reflect the stability of national traditions, and seeing Roosevelt's face on the dime offered a sense of continuity. The March of Dimes also continued its mission, and the connection between Roosevelt and the fight against polio remained strong in public memory. The dime served not only as currency, but also as a reminder of Roosevelt's impact on public health and leadership in difficult times. For numismatists, studying the 1978 dime also means understanding how minting technology improved throughout the decade. The dies used to strike the coins were strong and precise, but constant pressure and high mintage demands meant that by late stages dies could show wear, which affected the sharpness of details. Some collectors enjoy examining coins to identify early die state examples which show crisp detail compared to late die state pieces, which may show faint flow lines or reduced sharpness. These subtle differences give collectors more depth to explore within a common year like 1978. Another interesting aspect of the 1978 Roosevelt Dime story is the expanding hobby of coin collecting during the late 20th century. With the rise of coin magazines, price guides, and organized clubs, more people were paying attention to their pocket change and learning about dates, mint marks, and varieties. Even though 1978 did not produce dramatic errors or rare varieties, a few minor issues like off-center strikes, die cracks, or slightly rotated dies occasionally appear, and these pieces attract special interest from collectors who enjoy the hunt for oddities. Such coins can transform an ordinary year of production into a rewarding discovery. As we move deeper into the historical context of the 1978 dime, the significance of the clad era becomes even clearer. By 1978, the silver era was long gone for circulation coins, and the economic logic of base metal construction had proven successful. The decision made in 1965 was still shaping the coins of the 1970s and beyond. The clad Roosevelt dime had become a standard, reliable, and easy-to-produce coin with a long lifespan. This stability ensured that the 1978 dime would continue circulating for decades, and even today many of these coins remain in pockets, purses, and cash registers across the United States. Collectors also view 1978 as part of a broader period in which the United States Mint was preparing for future changes, including the state quarter program redesigns and improvements in DI manufacturing. While these changes were still years away, the groundwork was being laid. The Roosevelt dime itself would remain unchanged visually over the coming years, but the Mint's behind-the-scenes technological advancements contributed to improved consistency and quality control. Understanding this broader timeline helps place the 1978 dime in the ongoing evolution of American coinage. Another important part of the story is the legacy of the Roosevelt dime as a whole. The design has remained in use longer than most other U.S. coin designs, and in 1978 it was already more than 3 decades old. This long-running design is a testament to Roosevelt's lasting influence, as well as to the aesthetic appeal of Sinek's work. Many Americans still see the dime as a tribute not only to Roosevelt but also to the nation's resilience during the mid-20th century. The dime has also become associated with charitable giving through the March of Dimes, which strengthened the emotional connection between the public and the coin. As the narrative of the 1978 dime continues, we can explore the role of coinage in everyday American life during the late 1970s. Grocery prices were rising, interest rates were high, and wages were shifting. But the dime continued to serve as a useful small denomination for vending machines, payphones, and daily purchases. Its compact size, durability, and convenience made it one of the most efficient coins in circulation. The presence of millions of 1978 dimes in pockets across the country reflects their usefulness in daily economic activity. In the world of numismatic study, the 1978 Roosevelt dime remains a collectible coin, not because of extreme rarity, but because it represents a stable year of production within a long-standing series. Collectors appreciate the consistency of the year, the availability of high-grade examples with some patience, and the ability to build complete date and mint mark sets that include 1978 as an essential piece. The coin also provides an opportunity to study the Mint's production capabilities during a decade of transition, modernization, and growth. As the journey of this historical narrative continues, one can reflect on how a simple piece of metal carries within it the story of a nation, its leadership, its technological progress, its economic conditions, and its cultural memories. The 1978 Roosevelt dime stands as a symbol of mid-20th century leadership, late 20th century modernization, and the enduring value of small everyday objects in understanding history. Through careful study and appreciation, this coin becomes more than a date. In a series, it becomes a window into American life in 1978 and a lasting reminder of the era in which it was struck.